Hey guys, Tomboy61, and today we have a match in the Fletcher that goes down to the absolute wire, so it is a little bit of a nail biter, but we're not going to focus too much on the match today. Instead, we're going to be talking about a certain museum ship that certainly needs our help, and that would be the Sullivans. Now, if you are not aware, the Sullivans is a Fletcher-class destroyer, one of only 4 remaining in the world as of current. I think there's like 1 in Greece, 1 in Buffalo, which is the Sullivans, 1 down in New Orleans, which is the Kid, and I forget where the last one is currently berthed as a museum ship. But the Sullivans is a museum ship, and last year it got in the news because it was in need of some emergency repairs after it started listing to port. Thankfully, they were able to raise the $100,000 they needed for the emergency repairs, and then that kind of kicked off the ability for them, where they ultimately got $500,000 donated to them and a $500,000 grant or funding from the government in order to make the ship lake-worthy, because it technically is in one of the Great Lakes, but bring it back to some of its glories, make sure it's preserved and up to spec to continue its duty as a museum ship. And they were getting those repairs underway, but then the thing called winter happened up in New York, and the waters of the lake got too cold for them to do the repairs because they use things like epoxies, and those epoxies need to be able to dry, and they need to be above a certain temperature for them to cure. And once it dropped below that temperature, well, they lost the ability to do the work, so they had to postpone all of the work that was planned until they could resume once it started to warm up again. In fact, they're supposed to resume work this week, but just 1 week prior to them resuming work, they came in and saw this happening. The ship had taken on water, and basically its stern was resting on the bottom of the lake. Thankfully, it only had about a 5-foot gap from the bottom of the ship to the actual lake bed. So thankfully, there wasn't. It's not like it sunk all the way, but it is currently not supporting its own weight through things like buoyancy. It is currently sitting at the bottom of the lake. So the Sullivans and the Buffalo Naval Park Museum are in need once again to help with the repairs, and I feel like it's sort of our duty to help out with things like this. I personally have already made a $100 contribution because I wanted to get one of their challenge coins. Also, this past week we had I had a benefit stream. Feel free to go back and watch that if you would so feel like to. We did raise $130 during that stream, so thank you to everyone who came out during that. We were able to raise that money for that, and then additionally, something that I've been doing on the side is if you head over into my merch store, I do sell Save the Sullivans merch. Any proceeds from that do go into the ability to all the proceeds go, I end up donating them to the museum. Now, if all of that said, and you're like, Tommy, but I don't want to, I want to give directly, you're more than welcome. I'll have a link to that down below. And why is the Sullivans special, and why do we need to save it? Beyond it being just a Fletcher-class destroyer, the story behind it is something of spectacular. If you know the history of American destroyers, usually they are named for like naval heroes, right? Benson, Fletcher, like, you know, they're named for naval heroes, and this is the Sullivans, which is actually the first ship named for multiple people. And who are the Sullivans? They were 5 brothers who died aboard the USS Juno during World War II, all giving their lives during, I believe, the Battle of Guadalcanal. 3 of them died when the magazine of the Juno exploded, and then 2 others died out at sea from basically dehydration because there was not a rescue party sent for the Juno, because when they saw the Juno go up and the magazine detonate, the commanders did not believe anyone could have survived that thing. I think only 10 people out of the a couple hundred on board ended up surviving the explosion of the Juno. But these 5 brothers all gave their lives in service of the country and during World War II. And the Sullivans was meant to commemorate their sacrifice, but also just sort of commemorate in the spirit of the enlisted man, right? A lot of the times the naval heroes are those of captains and commanders, and to name it after these 5 brothers who are all just rank and file enlisted, the blue shirts, it was kind of a way to also not only honor their sacrifice, but the sacrifice of the everyman of the war. So the Sullivans is an important name. It's still a name that floats around to this day. There's a new guided missile destroyer who shares the name, but this old version of the Sullivans is one that is in desperate need. So if you have the spare change lying around, I absolutely recommend going out and donating to a good cause. Like I said, I already donated $100, because if you donate $100, you can get a special commemorative challenge coin, and I'm someone who likes to get things from my donations. Yeah, I know, it's not really a donation then, but still. And if you're like that and you want something, if you want the challenge coin, it's $100 over there. If you want something else, you could purchase the t-shirt, or my other recommended one is the sticker from my store. Once again, all the proceeds from those do go towards, I end up donating them all towards the Sullivans. So those are the things. The other thing you could possibly do is, I'll be honest, Flanders, I was not a huge fan of it. If you're someone who, after watching the reviews of the CCs, isn't going to pick up the campaign this time out, I think this is an excellent time to take the $10 to $15 that it takes to buy out the campaign, and instead of putting it towards this game, go ahead and shift those funds over to the museum ship. Museum ships need to be preserved, and they need to stay afloat. So that's my rant. As you can see, we've kind of we're about halfway through this game, and we did okay. We got into B, took out 1 destroyer, did great there, excellent. Then we tracked the other destroyer out who was trying to kill our 2 battleships. It was a Kagero. We went out, did our job, intercepted him. There are no more enemy destroyers. We are up on ships. We are up on caps, but we now need to kind of move. We're moving away from the singular cruiser, and we're kind of moving towards the rest of the enemy fleet, as we want to be out here to be able to support those enemies. So that's exactly what we're doing. We're just kind of sailing straight out, trying to get back into range of the rest of these enemies. We've done our main job as far as screening the enemy destroyers, right? Taking 2 of them out. We've done what we need to do. Our Georgia ends up taking out that last cruiser. So now it's just these 3 ships over here, and they've taken themselves up in a fairly defensible position in these sets of islands. We can see a rapid firing cruiser is somewhere over there. We can see an Iowa, and I don't know and don't remember what the last cruiser that we have to deal with is, but we want to push into B just because we want to be able to get close enough where if one of these guys starts to try to push in, we can go ahead, drop our torps, or if we want, we can also go ahead and start using our main guns, and that's exactly what we want to do on this Iowa. We know we are close enough where this cruiser that's on the other side of the island, he's using the other side of the island. There's no way his shells can arc over. That Iowa may not be paying much attention to us, but we do have that beautiful American AP, and if we can use that AP, get behind this island, we can start to chunk this Iowa for some substantial amounts of damage, and that's exactly what we want to do. Just get behind the island here. We drop spot, exactly what we want to do, and then we are just going to use that beautiful American AP. Now, they have taken out our friendly ships that were over there, so we are now the front line, and there goes either a sonar or a radar, most likely of that ship that is around the corner. So Iowa knows exactly where we are. We need to be keeping an eye on his barrels. Of course, he does look like he is distracted with the battleships that are nose into him, and that's exactly what we want. We're going to go ahead and flip over to the HE, try to get some fire started, but we can see that Atlanta is now targeting us, so that is probably the sonar or radar. He is broadside, so we're going to use that AP flip back over, try to do a little bit of damage to him while we dance and still have the engine boost, try to get out of there. We successfully do a little bit of chunk damage to him. He doesn't have much left. We're leaving him with nothing, really. We also were able to get those torps off on the Iowa's heading. He does seem pretty consistent and nose in. Now we just have to pray to the RNG gods that what we laid down is going to be straight and true on that bearing, because, well, we can see there is a fairly large gap in there that is off to a little bit of left. So if Iowa catches wind, or if that was in fact the sonar of the Atlanta and not the radar of the Atlanta, that Iowa could most likely easily avoid those torps. And we just want to be ready. We're kind of thankful that we only let out one set of torps, because it keeps us with having one in reserve. Fletcher, not exactly the quickest reload on those torps. Surrey is the final cruiser that is that we are going to have to take down. We're going to flip over to HE. The Surrey and most of the British heavy cruisers don't tend to have a ton of armor. The HE does a fair well, and the HE does a good job of penning it. We flip over to AP just because he is at pretty much the perfect angle for us. We're going to kind of test and see if we can get some good pens. We also are going to go ahead and lay our smoke screen. We can see that one of our battleships went down, and while that other battleship is still up, we want to be able to use our guns and use our DPM, because we don't want him to be soloing 3v1, right? That isn't what we want to be doing for our teammate. We know that Atlanta's radar most likely is on cooldown, so we do feel safe kind of hanging in our smoke. We do need to be worried, though. We are sitting in our smoke, and Surrey does have torpedoes, so he could be laying him this way. Iowa pushing in, I think he's feeling fairly safe, since our fire as of late has been on that Surrey, and we're going to continue to rain down fire on that Surrey. Speaking of torpedoes from earlier, he did go ahead and launch those torpedoes. Thankfully, we do spot them, hit into full forward, and just narrowly miss it. Iowa coming to a slowdown. We do end up knocking one of the torpedo shell, or the torp rack, on the Surrey as he sails away. Iowa just nose out enough for those torps, and it looks like the far left torp there is going to come true. We do end up setting a fire on Iowa. We'll see if he damage cons it. We get some good damage right here. We also get the flood right there. He continues to flood out just as the Georgia takes out the Surrey, and well, now it is a 1v1, us versus that Atlanta. We don't know how much health that Atlanta really has left. We know we hit him for a little bit, but we do know we need to be scared. We also know that this smoke is only going to last for 26 more seconds. We also know, one, the general direction of that Atlanta, and more importantly, number two, he's not in the cap circle as of yet. We don't have a great concealment at 6 kilometers on this Fletcher, so we do want to start to kind of flee the cap circle, and we can then use the cap circle as a way to determine where that Atlanta is, right? We do have the one piece of information, the heading of where the Atlanta is, but we don't really have a depth of where that Atlanta is. So if we combine that data with the cap circle, we can use those things to kind of triangulate and coordinate where that Atlanta is. We are also just kind of thinking in our head, okay, it's a 1v1. We're at 950 points, less than a minute remaining. There's no way they can win on points, right? We could just sail off into the distance and GG, we win. Like, there's nothing this Atlanta can do. But then we see how much health he has, and we're like, well, it's not like we're gonna get a Kraken, but we got to take him out, right? Right? He's a cruiser that is like almost specifically designed. I mean, yes, it's a cruiser designed as an anti-aircraft platform, but as far as what it does mostly in this game, his job is to hunt down destroyers. Is it the ultimate insult for a destroyer to finish him off? Well, we're going to wait to the last seconds of this game and try to do just that. We can see his guns aren't facing towards us. 1 salvo out, 2 salvos out before his guns are even on target, and there he goes. We wipe him off the map, and that is the end of the game. So, guys, if you liked the video, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and do me a favor, rewatch it so that I can donate the proceeds of this video over to the Sullivans. Guys, if you like all that said, I hope you have a great rest of your day. See ya.